Hello everybody and welcome to a community fortress. This is the fortress of Bridgedborn, which was sent in on the Discord by Buttermedly. This is going to be a very atypical community fort, as we're going to be reading some character descriptions and not actually looking at that much of a fortress. If that sounds interesting to you, stick around. If you've been watching this channel for a while and you've been wondering where those very long stream archives have gone, check out the description. There's a link to a YouTube channel called Blind Extras, which is where those videos are going to be living from now forward. This channel is going to be focused on shorter content with the occasional, I guess, maybe hour-long interview or something. So if that's more your shtick, stick around. Also, if you're interested, we currently have a contest running where you can enter your design for a mayor's office complex. There is a video on this YouTube channel explaining the rules and a room on the Discord for you to submit your contest submissions. The DF Design Contests room, to be specific. The video is also pinned in there. So if you're already in the Discord, go check out that room if you're interested. There is some merch on the line as prizes. But for this fortress, once again, this is the Fortress of Bridgedborn, of the Barricade of Bronze of the Heavenly Cave. And they, Buttermedly basically stated here that instead of sending in something super big and fancy, they sent in the very beginning of a fortress with some interesting visitors from their previous fortress. So we're going to take a look at that. We dive into the fortress and we can see that, wow, they really are very much at the very beginning of this fortress. It's a somewhat good biome with dense downy grass everywhere, as well as plum trees and some beautiful stuff around the fringes of the fortress. Lots of red sand in this embark site. You can see that they've started digging out some boulders up here, as well as clearing out sand, and they've been making beds. As for the fortress itself, they've just barely unloaded the wagon. We have a few bits of livestock scattered around, and there's our first interesting visitor, this elven poet. And then if we move up here, we can see that they've got a bunch of jobs queued up at these different workshops, and of course, dwarf mason necromancers making beds. Well, I guess he just wants them to not wake up then. And then down here, we have some offices set up already. We have our dining hall, the geared breakfasts, which is a very good name, and some dwarven bedrooms that are currently under construction. But our three interesting visitors are as follows: Datan, the elf performer, Yushrir, the elf poet, and Saigon Bakterkost, who is also an elven poet and also a baroness, and they are all part of a group. So they look like they're attending meetings, which means they're probably going to petition to stay. This is actually a reason for anybody who's newer to the game to very much make sure that if you are playing Dwarf Fortress, try and build fortresses in the same world, multiple fortresses in the same world. This will result in other visitors and legendary figures from your previous fortresses showing up in your new fortress. Also, I will note, they've probably already remedied this because this fortress was submitted about 15 days ago now. But yeah, your drinks are out, bud. Like, you might need to fix that. But let's take a look at this Baron Consort. So they are 215 years old, elven baroness, who has a dwarven name. Now, people always talk about, like, cultures and stuff in Dwarf Fortress, and they love to pick on the elves, and goblins are evil and all that stuff. But the culture of each individual character doesn't actually matter what race they are, but what faction they're raised in. So a dwarf that grew up in a goblin civilization is going to have a very goblin-like description with very goblin morals. An elf that grew up in a dwarven civilization is also going to be represented as such. As you can see, this elf here is a dwarven baroness consort, right? And their name is Saigon Driftfloors, which is not an elven name. That is a dwarven name, meaning they grew up in dwarven society, which is kind of rad, considering they're 215 years old and this world is in the year 296. They were born and raised with dwarves, which is kind of awesome. So let's read their personality. Always acts with mercy and compassion at the forefront of her considerations. She is gripped by crippling shyness, and she truly is fulfilled by assisting those in need. Though she wishes this were not the case, as she considers altruism foolish. She sees others as selfish and conniving and never feels discouraged. She is a nervous wreck, but very comfortable around others that are different from herself. She enjoys being in crowds, and it has an overinflated sense of self-worth, typical elf, and can get caught up in internal deliberations when action is necessary, a strengthening after experiencing trauma. She cracks easily under pressure, and she tends to be passive in discussions. She finds obligations confining, and she is conflicted by this, and she believes in the importance of the rule of law. She tends to form only tenuous emotional bonds with others. This would be a very good, like, captain of the guard. And she tends to form only tenuous emotional bonds with others, and she has a tendency to consider ideas and abstractions over practical applications. She is quick to form negative views about things, and she takes offered help and gifts without feeling particularly grateful, and she likes to take it easy, and she has an active sense of humor, and she is rarely happy or enthusiastic. She is conflicted by this since she values parties and merrymaking in the abstract and tends to be a little wasteful when working on projects, and tends to make a small mess with her own possessions. She laughs very loudly when she's surprised, and she does not mind being outdoors, at least for a time, and doesn't really care about anything anymore. She dreams of bringing lasting peace to the world and is kitted out in full adamantine, from what I can tell, as well as some artifacts. This is a bismuth bronze longsword, which doesn't have a 1 hour long description, I swear. And all Krastor ship is of the highest quality. It is encrusted with round, brilliant cut indigo tourmalines and encrusted with bands of bismuth and bronze and rhinoceros bone. This object menaces with spikes of fire clay, clay loam, and guava wood. On the item is an image of a thread in orthoclase. On the item is an image of dwarves in alpaca wool. The dwarves are traveling. The artwork relates to the foundation of bristle lash by the knife of the noiselessness. That's hard to say. Of the Castle of Dimensions in the early spring of 250. That is awesome. So that's like, what, a year 1 artifact for a fort in 250? Damn, that's cool. We also have this shield, which is a giant tortoise bone buckler. All Krastor ship is of the highest quality. It is encrusted with cushioned milk quartz cabochons and decorated with guava wood and encircled with bands of giant turquoise tortoise bone and jute and cave spider silk and square brilliant cut milk quartzites. This object is adorned with hanging rings of siltstone and menaces with spikes of rhinoceros bone. On the item is an image of Litast spin trades, the dwarf and dwarves in milk quartz. Litast spin trades is surrounded by the dwarves. The artwork relates the ascension of the dwarf Litast spin trades to the position of queen in the Castle of Dimensions in 204. Over here we have Datan, this elven performer, who has a similarly long description, and she becomes completely helpless in stressful situations and never fails to seek out so she's helpless in them, but never fails to seek out the most stressful and dangerous situations. You are a bit of a masochist. And she never acts without prolonged deliberation, even to her own detriment on the harm of those around her. She almost never feels discouraged, and she is very greedy. She finds humor in most situations and has an overinflated sense of self-worth, generally acts impartially and is rarely moved to mercy, and disturbed by this as somebody who dislikes those that seek to acquire power over others. She can easily fall in love or develop positive feelings, and she's quick to form negative views about things, and she tends to make a small mess with her own possessions, and she tends to hang on to grievances and often feels lustful. She is not inherently proud of her talents and accomplishments, and she's not particularly ambitious, and she is moved by art and natural beauty, and she is troubled by this since she dislikes the natural world and prefers to present herself modestly and is not particularly interested in what others think of her. Likes to take it easy. She dreams of creating a great work of art, and this dream was realized, and of course is also equipped with adamantine. This one has also brought some artifacts with her, specifically a bulky twinkling metal whip. All craftsmanship is of the highest quality. Well, that's a glorious, legendary item, you could say. A twinkling metal whip. You wouldn't want to get slapped with that. And then down here, where is our final visitor? Our final visitor is Ushrir, the elf poet. And he is... does almost everything in his power to avoid excitement and stress, is prone to hatreds and often develops negative feelings, almost never feels discouraged and often feels lustful, is slow to anger and doesn't handle stress well, generally acts with a narrow focus on the current activity and tends to be passive in discussions, is often nervous and tends to hang on to grievances, has a tendency towards forming deep and emotional bonds with others, and is quite polite. And he has little interest in joking around and generally acts impartially and is rarely moved to mercy and likes to take it easy and dreams of seeing the great natural places of the world, has 10 kills... And for the other two, 3 kills and 9 kills respectively, including a hamster woman. The poor thing. Well, this has been a very interesting little community fortress. You can see the whole fortress here. There's not much else to talk about or cover. But I think that this was a really interesting departure from the norm. Thank you very much for sending this fortress, Buttermedly, and to anybody watching this video, I hope that you enjoy this series because I have zero intention of stopping. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.